Hey everybody, Chris here. How you doing? All right. Today we're going to make dice boxes. Pretty expensive, you can do it for, depending on what you got, and if you got some of the supplies handy, you could do it for less than 20 bucks. You probably could get away with doing it for 12, even 10, 12 bucks if you really wanted to. But the best part about it is you can custom make these things for your friends and for players or your DM or whatever. And then you can amp it up depending on what you want to spend. These are just these inexpensive boxes that I get from Michael's. Cost about, I think, like $4 or something. They're pine, nothing fancy, very lightweight. And so you just take some stain that you got. You can get stain anywhere, obviously, from Lowe's, Home Depot, whatever. You can order some cool colored stains, like purple stains and things like that online. I'll have some links down in the description box here so you can see, and you can see exactly what I'm using for these things. But I prefer to use a paper towel or a rag when I'm staining, only because you want to make sure that you don't get any drips on it. And you can, what I didn't show you was that I sanded it down and put on an extra coat then, just to make sure. It's not really necessary. Alright, here I'm putting on some polyurethane. It's regular, polyurethane you buy at the store, hardware store, and just put on a light coat here. That's the operative word, is you just want to layer it. You put on a light coat, and then you sand it, let it dry. Well, you let it dry, sand it, and then you put on the next coat. You'll sand it, clean it, and then put on the next coat. Yeah, so maybe I wasn't clear on the process. You paint it on very thinly, let it dry, sand it, make sure it's clean, brush it off, and then paint on your next coat, and then repeat that until you're happy with what you got. And you just go over the whole thing. I do put plastic underneath it when it's drying. You can use wax paper, anything that just so it won't stick. If you leave it on just on the paper itself, then it'll stick to the paper, and you'll have to sand that off, and it's just a pain in the butt. So it's better to put it on plastic or something, and then you just want to kind of move it a little bit and check on it, make sure that the polyurethane doesn't get all lumpy or anything underneath there as you go along. A bit of it's just learning how to use some of these mediums here. Alright, so this is one. This is not actually what I'm going to use, but I'm showing how you can go ahead and you can put anything inside these boxes. So here I've got some scrap leather sitting around, some purple scrap leather that I'd used for some making dice bags or something a while ago. And I'm just cutting it. I measured the inside of the box, which is 5 1/4 by 8 1/8. So I'm just measuring everything as I go along with the square, and making sure these boxes aren't the greatest. You can go on Etsy and spend a little more and get some nicer boxes made of some better woods, some oak and birch and things like that, and even some other exotic woods that are out there. But you're going to pay a lot more for those. You're going to pay anywhere from 20 for an unfinished box. You're going to pay, it just depends on the type of wood that's out there, but for like a birch box or even an oak box or something, I'd expect to pay 20 bucks at least for the box. That's there. But if you're just doing these as little gifts for friends and you don't have a lot of money to spend, then these pine boxes that they have at AC Moore, or at these ones actually I get at Michael's. The ones at AC Moore, I don't think they carry these. But I'll put a direct link in there so people can see it. And then as far as the leather is concerned, they have suede that you can buy directly from the craft stores, and the suede works pretty good too. The only thing I don't like about it is that it does tend to pick up cat hair or whatever, and it's a bit difficult to get it. You can brush it out, but it's leather like this is good because it's easy to clean, and I show you later that a lot of people put felt in it. And felt looks great, and felt's super inexpensive. You can get I think it's like a 12-inch by 12-inch or 18-inch by 18-inch square felt for a couple bucks at your craft store. And then those look good. So if you don't have a lot of money, you're looking for some gifts for players or your DM or whatever, then you can go there and you can do these things pretty inexpensively, and you get it all done. And if you got a family member or somebody who's got wood stain or something like that, you don't even need to buy that. You can just co-opt a little bit of wood stain from them and use that for the stain your boxes. And so here I'm just measuring, being pretty meticulous about measuring, because with these you really don't want You know, you want to really line up perfectly down in the bottom of the box. You don't really want it to, you know, you don't want any gaps showing or anything like that. It just doesn't look very good. So just be careful, spend a little time, and it's better to cut it a bit bigger so that you can trim it than to cut it too small. So yeah, so you know, normally what I do here then is push it down a little bit, and then I would take that leather out and paint the bottom with you know, a decent amount of that Elmer's, the PVA glue. I've used like 3M spray glue before, and even epoxy, but I really like the white glue because it doesn't dry that quickly, and it allows you to move around and place it and get it really positioned where you like, so you can leave it and then let it dry overnight. So this is a commission art that I had a artist. She goes by the name of Oda Cat. I'll have a link to her work so you can see, and paid her to I commissioned her to do some artwork of a group of players that I had. I was running out of the Abyss, and these was the group of the players. They were in the Foaming Mug in Blingden Stone. That's the Deep Gnome, the Svirfneblin's major city in the Underdark. And so I had her draw a picture of their characters in the Foaming Mug, which is this tavern that they're rebuilding after the Drow assault. So she did a wonderful picture, really great. They had a mountain dwarf, a human bard, an elf cleric, and a elf ranger. And unfortunately I had to trim off. She had this cute little stuffed beholder on top that these we had printed out and then framed, and everybody got a picture of it. But this one, because of the size and the size of the box, and then the dimensions of the art that she had done, I had to to trim it a little bit better. And I just really printed this out on a decent color printer. I really didn't spend a lot of money. I mean, you could spend some money and get it on a little heavier cardstock, but it's unnecessary. I just went to Kinko's and paid, you know, just, I don't know, I forgot what it was. It wasn't much, 12 cents or something to have it printed out on a Kinko photocopier, and a couple versions just in case I screwed it up and I needed to redo it. So I just was careful about trimming this, and you know, made sure everything was square, all my corners were square and everything, so everything lined up. And yeah, so that's it. And you could do this with scissors, but really doing it with the box cutter and a square will make your life so much easier, because you can just, you know, you can get better cuts with it. Make sure you're using a sharp blade, otherwise you'll just butcher the paper as you're cutting along, and again, it won't look very good. So just really go slow and spend some time. I ended up speeding this up. This is 4 times as fast as normally was there, except for you didn't want to watch me very slowly, you know, marking these things and measuring and cutting. So I just sped it up so that it would look like it was pretty quick. But yeah, so sadly I had to remove the beholder, the little stuffed beholder off the top. There you go. And it was foreshadowing because they ended up having to deal with a beholder eventually. Well, as you can see, that it's a little bit too long on the ends. I thought I had measured pretty well. Yeah, stuck it in there, so I had to get a box cutter to kind of help me get it out. But yeah, I wanted to be careful not to damage the paper. They ended up actually fighting a beholder at the end, and so and that was her idea. I didn't even mention the artist's idea. I didn't even mention putting a beholder on there. She thought it'd be cute to put a stuffed beholder up there on top, and so it was a bit of foreshadowing when I gave them the art on the whole thing there. So yeah, so I ended up that I trimmed this a little bit too short. There you can see on the edges there. So that's where you really want to be careful, and it's better to be super conservative when you're making your cuts, and just trim as you go. All right, so here I just took a little white glue, and you don't want to put too much on here, especially when you work with paper, because you really don't want to saturate it and just you know, make it look terrible. So I just kind of just painted some on, adjusted it to how I liked it. It was a little harder to move around. It's easier with the felt and the leather to adjust and to move it around here, but once you know, you can move it a little bit so that you can really sort of center it and make it look right. I got it set up there, and I ended up taking a black paint marker just around the edges, just to kind of hide the hide the wood on the bottom. You could paint the bottom and put that on there if you really wanted to, but it's not necessary. Another cool thing you can do is that if in Photoshop you can remove, say you've got like, you just want the image of a character or something in there, and you can remove the around them and then have it printed out on a clear, clear paper or whatever you call it, and then get that printed out at Kinko's or something, and then you'll have a clear background behind it, so the wood will be showing behind it. So you could have dice in there or something like that. All right, this is this epoxy that I use. I've used a lot of different epoxies over the years, worked with a lot of different ones, and this one I really like. It's not cheap. I think that's about $17 at Michael's, but if you go in there with a coupon, you can get it for 40% off, so you can save yourself a lot of money. I like it because there's no smell to it whatsoever. As far as resins go, it's about the least toxic resin that I've ever had to deal with. Generally, you want to wear gloves with these things because you can get this weird allergy to the resin, and it's nasty. I've known people who did fiberglass work and ended up with it because they didn't wear gloves when they were working with the resin, and so it'll irritate your skin. So it's better that you wear gloves. I don't know why I didn't have gloves on, because I have nitrile gloves and I probably should have been wearing them, but I just didn't here, and I didn't really get it on me. All right, I'm setting my watch for like about 2 minutes. I usually like to stir these things. It's generally about right. I fast forwarded through that so that you didn't have to sit there and watch me stir the stupid thing for 2 minutes. And then after that, you just pour it in there. Pour the resin in as liquid resin, and it sits over the top. You just get it all out with a popsicle stick. Work it out there, and then you just float the resin around, just to get it right in the edges and make sure you got everything going there. Just get it all in the edges and the grooves and everything. Yeah, just check your corners and stuff, and then make sure you when you do set it down and leave it there, that it's on a level place, that whatever table or whatever you're using is not off center, because otherwise it's liquid, remember, so it's going to settle as it sits, and that's it. So that was it. I left it for 72 hours because it was pretty cold. If it's warmer, it can cure up in 24 hours, but 72 is generally good before it hard cures, and you want to read the instructions and they'll tell you. All right, so these are a lot of dice boxes. Well, you don't need this, but a lot of dice boxes put on rubber, feet on the bottom of it, and it helps if you got a table or something like that, like a nice table, and you don't want to mar the table or something. You have it sit up. It's a bit noisier because obviously it's not flat, but I ordered these from Amazon, and I'll have a link to them as well. And I just took some alcohol and cleaned off the wood to make sure that it was, that it was not, that it would stick, that the adhesive would adhere well. And I roughed it up a little bit too. I didn't show you. I just kind of roughed the edge up a little, just really carefully with some sandpaper, so it had something. The adhesive had something to stick to. And that's pretty much all there is to it, to making a nice dice box that you can, give out to your friends or other players as gifts or something at the end of a campaign or the beginning of the campaign. And that's it. And so there you go. You're set up. You got your dice box. You got your dice. You've got your character sheet next to you. Your pens, your pencil, eraser. You sit there and you roll, and hopefully you roll well. This is the resin is a bit noisier. The leather, obviously, and the felt tend to dull the noise a little bit, gives it kind of a crack as it hits the box, and that resin. That resin, it will scratch over time, but I've made it for friends who have had them for a couple of years now, and there's a few scratches in there, but overall they look great. So that's it. All right, thanks for watching, and hope to see you next time. Make sure you like. All right, bye.